Welcome to Compass Points, the weekly podcast for CompassKnox.com. CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more.
Welcome to Compass Points, podcast about Knoxville and Knox County government, politics, business, education, or just about anything else that we turn our attention to. I am Scott Barker. I'm the editor of Compass, and Compass is a subscription-based website and newsletter where we report on all these things and more. And you can find us at CompassKnox.com. Recording today in the opulent studios of Barbarian Productions in Rocky Hill, beautiful Rocky Hill, and our producer is Lord Seth Barber. Seth, how are you doing today?
I think it's beautiful snow-covered Rocky Hill today. I'm just super glad the kids are at least somewhat back in school today. It's been quite a trying week between the weather and the school being out, and one of my kids had a Disney trip with the band, and he got back from that, and I had to be there at 4 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday to get him before the snow came. And it's been a sleepless, crazy week in this house, and so to have a little bit of normalcy is a win for me.
All right, and it must be said this snow-covered day in Rocky Hill is Friday when we're taping this.
Fingers crossed it's going to be melted off by Sunday when you guys are hearing this.
Yes, well, let's hope so anyway. It's just about gone in much of my neighborhood, so I live up in North Knoxville, so things are pretty clear there. It never was too bad. Their streets were never fine. They were always fine. So, but there's more to talk about than just the snow that's no longer here. Last week in Compass, we had several interesting stories. One, the Foundry, the historic former industrial building down in by the World's Fair site, is going to have a new purpose. The Knoxville Children's Theater bought it. We'll have we'll talk about that a little bit. There's was an open house last week at this new composite facility at Cherokee Farm, the UT Research Park at Cherokee Farm. So that's we stopped by there to take, see what all that fuss was about. We also had went to the city budget retreat, which was actually a week ago Friday, but we had a report on it last week that basically financially the city's in pretty good health. At least that's what they're reporting. And then we're going to start though talking about a new process for reporting waste, fraud, and abuse in the city of Knoxville. It's something that went into effect this week or last week and generated a little bit of controversy. The little background here: anytime that you wanted to report an incident of waste, fraud, or abuse, say you saw a city vehicle parked in front of Hooters one afternoon, and you wanted to report that as possible abuse, then you could. There were any number of ways you could report it, and none of them too formal. You just call into the city or call into a city department, lodge your complaint. It would, eventually, usually those things would go to the law department, the finance department. They take a look at them and see if there was anything to it. If it was something real serious, they could pass it on, and it seemed to be the case. They pass it on to the state comptroller's office and the district attorney general's office in case someone needed to be prosecuted. There was during the course of all the development of this, one of the incidents they talked about was a supervisor who stole some equipment, and they did that. They wound up firing him. They think he was prosecuted as well. So anyway, the one thing is there was no real formal thing that you could just say to citizens, okay, here's what you do to report waste, fraud, or abuse that you suspect is going on in the city of Knoxville. And so the Kincannon administration started working with the audit committee. The audit committee is creation of city council. Its makeup is a blend of city council members and financial audit professionals. So the administration would come up with things. They would talk to them at the audit committee meetings during the year. Say this is one thing we're thinking. One of the things they talked about was, okay, do we need just a hotline? And that was the genesis was the Municipal Technical Advisory Service at the University of Tennessee recommended a hotline, so that make it easier for people to know where to call and what to do. They decided not to create a new hotline and take advantage of the city's existing 311 call center, which is where you call. You can call there to report potholes. You can call there to request for services. You can do all. You can make many kinds of requests there. So they decided to use that. And over the course of the year, they refined what they were going to do. They had and what they came up with was this: you call 311. You can make your report there, and 311 would report it on to the mayor's office and the finance department and the law department, and they would investigate, and it kind of would go like before. And anyway, the and then also there's an online component where you could make a complaint online. One of the things was in December, the December meeting of the audit committee, the administration made their kind of final pitch. This is what we're going to do. Is it okay with you? And the consensus was, I went back. I don't cover these meetings, in person. I went back and looked at minutes. The consensus among the committee was, yes, go ahead and do this. And they decided initially to go ahead and establish it through an executive order from Mayor Kincannon. There's some talk about eventually codifying it through a city council ordinance, but they said to get it started, they went ahead and established it with this executive order. Not unprecedented. It's a little unusual, but not unprecedented. That's how the Police Advisory and Review Committee got started back in Victor Ash's administration. He created it with an executive order, and it was later codified in the city code. So anyway, there was some opposition that sprang up almost immediately. In fact, before it even took effect, Savannah Kirk, who is the city's internal auditor, it's a position that's essentially in the city council office. Kirk wrote a memo to members of the committee, raising some objections that she had to the way that they came about doing this. Now, one thing was she was on leave and missed the last couple of meetings of the year and wasn't able to be there, so she didn't really have the opportunity to make her objections known. She one of the things that she complained about was she was worried about the anonymity, about the ability of people to make anonymous complaints, which you can do by phone. The website that they created has fields for your name and address and phone number and such. One of the things was it wasn't clear when it went live that was optional, and so the city did go back in response to Ms. Kirk's objections there, and made it very clear that that those fields are optional for you. You don't have to do that. And Kirk was very, very worried about that. She also wanted to make sure that it was a little bit more independent. She the reporting of that doesn't go at first directly to the audit committee or to her as the internal auditor. There will be reports that will go to her and the audit committee and the external auditor. A lot of auditors going on with city government, and but not in real time, not as they come in. Those will be set up in reports. Of course, this was already it's already passed because of the executive order. But of course, things can be tinkered with, and so I'm sure that there will be more discussions moving forward on that. Another source of opposition came from Council Member Amelia Parker, who actually is one of the council members who is on the audit committee. She said that the administration just didn't respect the internal auditor's role, didn't like it, that it was done by executive order, several other complaints that they were kind of interesting because of as a member of the committee, she had a seat at the table to discuss these things and others, and the whole help shape the entire program. But she missed. She did not attend 5 of the 6 meetings that the committee had, or the committee had last year. She only attended 1, and the most important ones were, of course, the ones that getting toward the end of the process in December, especially when the administration asked and received kind of the consensus opinion of the committee, and it wasn't there. So I'm assuming that there will be more discussions going forward. I do know that the David Brace, who was the chief of staff to Mayor Kincannon, said that Parker's objections were kind of misleading, and that he noted that she failed to be engaged in the process that came about. So the bottom line is that now there is a hotline, if you will, that you can call anonymously to register complaints of waste, fraud, or abuse. Most of those that would come in from the general public would be more of the I saw a city employee doing this and didn't know what was going on. Employees can call in too and make these reports anonymously as well. That's how some of the others, some of the examples that the city gave of uncovering waste, fraud, and abuse happened there. Now, one thing I'll say is it's not been doesn't appear to have been to be a widespread problem as far as using in big dollar amounts and those kinds of things. It's not, but there was something that was uncovered in an audit that led to disciplinary action. There was, so it has worked fairly well, but now you can just call 311 and report anything that you think is actually an issue, and the administration will investigate it. That has not changed. It's not a power grab. It's not anything like that. That's just always been the way it's been. And you could feasibly come up with a different method of doing that, but this is the one that that the audit committee didn't vote on, but apparently gave its blessings to the administration taking. So that will be it. So if you have concerns about waste going on in city government, call that 311 number. Let them know. And speaking of the city, the budget retreat was held last Friday. Budget retreat is something they do annually. It gives the city council members and the administration, everybody, a chance to find out kind of where the city stands halfway through the fiscal year. The fiscal year begins July 1st, runs through June 30th. The halfway point, obviously, is December 31st. So every year, usually in February, the city convenes this retreat. And the chief financial officer, who currently is Boyce Evans, will give a kind of an update on where the city is. And this year, Evans gave the diagnosis of sound financial health, quote unquote. Said that the past years things have been a little bit rockier, but he said this without reservation that things are going really, really well. Property taxes are strong. Sales tax revenue, which has been growing, but it's slowing down now that the post-pandemic economy has slowed down, and inflation is back down. Sales, when inflation goes up, sales tax revenues go up because things cost more money, and so it's intimately tied to pricing. And so the other things that are going on, the city's got the debt's down a little bit. They've got good bond ratings, and this is important coming up because they've got $24 million in their savings account, in their what's called the unassigned fund balance. That just means it's a cash line around the rainy day fund, essentially, where they can tap into it if they need to. And it's important because they are going to need to. In March, the administration will be going to to city council for $2 million to pay for the more work, repair work on the Gay Street Bridge, which as we reported last week, is going to be when it reopens, it will be only for pedestrian and bicycle use. That $2 million will go toward the stabilization of the current structure that they hope will be sufficient to keep it as a pedestrian and bicycle bridge for about a decade until it can be demolished and replaced. But that's another reason that $124 million in reserves is important. Is nobody knows what the heck is going to happen with federal funding. And the federal funding, there's a lot of federal funding that comes through the city, various grants, housing funds come from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So all these, everybody who wants more affordable housing, that's where most of the bulk of that money comes from. The Knoxville area transit gets a lot of federal money as well. The grants will go toward buying electric buses, and they're trying to convert the fleet over to all electric buses. They also get some operational money. It's just CAT almost cannot function at the level it functions now, or now without in the long run without federal support. Isaac Thorne, who's the transit director, said in the short term they could probably, if they don't get another dime the rest of the year from the federal government, then they can probably make do, but it's not long term. Transit systems never make money. They're not really designed. They're not really designed to make money. They're designed to it's a service that's provided by municipalities. So, overall, depending on, again, the amount of federal funding that actually comes through, the effects of possible tariffs on inflation, all these things will factor in. But at this point, the city's financial situation's pretty darn good, according to Evans. So will be known as the administration in Washington moves forward with its ideas. A lot of the initiatives are tied up in court or delayed while court decisions are being made. So over the next few months, there will be nobody knows exactly what's going to happen there. And also over the next several months, the Kincannon administration will be developing its proposal for a budget for the next fiscal year. So that will be one job that I do not envy is Boyce Evans' job with the county, or Chris Caldwell with the city, or the Boyce Evans with the city, Chris Caldwell with the county, because they're the ones who have to actually formulate these budgets with in such uncertain times. So that is going to be something that we always follow. Budget season. It's kind of like tomato season, for folks in East Tennessee. For us, it's kind of just kind of what we do. I mean,
I was like the adage of they talk and talk and talk, but where they spend the money is where the real priorities are.
Yeah,
the easiest way to actually understand what your government is doing is where they're willing to earmark the cash.
Yeah, Seth. I mean, it's the the clearest expression of policy is through the budget.
Yeah.
Period.
Exactly.
And so if you want to know, what kind of priority a mayor of any city, not just Knoxville, any city or county government, either one, if you want to see what their priorities are about crime, you can look at police budget and other programs too that they actually fund. You want to see what their real position is on housing. You can look at how much money they put toward housing, not only that federal money that I talked about, but also local funds that go to housing and those kinds of things. So you really do get to see the priorities. If they don't fund parks, they don't really care about parks, regardless of what they say. So, I mean, that's the
exactly.
Yeah.
Or the other adage of, well, you put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
That's really what's going on. That's why budget season is the most important to me to pay attention to, because then you get the real answers to a lot of questions.
We think so too. That's it comes. The great thing about budget season is it comes every year. It's
almost like election season. Jeez.
Yeah. The one thing about elections though, locally is every other year it's a different election. You got city elections in odd numbered years, and the other elections in even numbered years.
Right, and usually we get a couple of weeks break, but sometimes it feels like the next election starts before the current one ends.
Oh yeah. The Knox County mayor's race in 2026 started.
Oh, the rumor mill is abound too. I'm excited to share some rumors on my show, but anyway, I'll leave that. The rumors. My show's the rumor show. This is the fact show.
There you go. Another story that we did this week was a business story. The Institute for Advanced Composites Innovation. They usually go by an acronym. It's IACNI, I guess is how you pronounce it. But they have a new headquarters at the UT Research Park at Cherokee Farm, just on the other side of the river from Knoxville and from downtown Knoxville anyway. It's an 80,000 square foot facility, and in it they've got all kinds of equipment and production lines set up to help create and develop advanced composites. And for those of you who don't know, and I barely know, the composites are materials that you can create. A lot of research goes into those, and they generally try to make them, for example, lighter and stronger than other materials, than steel or others. They can withstand greater heat or greater cold, things like that. They have these special qualities that are needed for modern products, and there's a lot of research. This is a strong area for composite research, not only at UT but ORNL as well. Other private companies here that do a lot of research and development on composite materials. It's a big part of modern manufacturing now, and computers, aerospace industry, the automobile industry, all kinds of industries use these composite materials. In fact, the institute there, in order to open this, went into partnership with the Department of Energy, Department of Defense, UT, ORNL, private companies like ExxonMobil. And so
I've got a silly question here for you.
Sure.
With not to go back into budget talk, but the conversation about the footbridge on UT campus, one of the things that was floated in early parts of that conversation was talking about using some of the new materials that UT's materials development was doing. Is that something that's going to be maybe whipped in with this, or we haven't heard anything specific?
Well, that's I've heard that too. I don't think they're far enough along.
Gotcha.
One of the things is they had to make it less expensive in order to get the funding together for it. So composite materials, because they have to be developed,
tend to be a little bit more pricey.
Tend to be pricier, and so that certainly would be something that I would think that they'd take a good close look at, and also with that we go back to the budget again, because while the Biden administration approved the federal grant that's going to allow the construction of the pedestrian bridge, don't know if that money's actually going to come through now that the Trump administration is in charge.
Exactly. Yeah.
So again, that's one of those great unknowns. It's kind of funny. The city of Knoxville has gone, okay, there's no pedestrian bridges across the Tennessee River. I mean, they're pedestrian, you can go across the bridges, but there's no dedicated pedestrian bridge across the Tennessee River. Then they proposed to build one. Then they had the Gay Street Bridge thing happen. So we could end up with 2 pedestrian bridges across the river. But we could also end up with continuing with none, because the Gay Street Bridge is going to be converted, it's going to be torn down, and a new vehicle bridge will be put in its place, although it will also presumably will have pedestrian.
Right. And maybe by the time they get to the Gay Street
facilities.
Bridge project, some of these new materials will be online and in an affordable way.
We don't know.
It'll be fun. This is why we keep doing these shows.
That's why they do research and development. But one of the things that they do at this facility is they do bring students in to learn about how this happens with hands-on experience as well, and right up through doctoral students. So it's one of those high tech research facilities that is part of the modern university and the modern business world. So it's one of those, and it's one of those places where those two realms cross over and meet, and that's become more and more the way that business is done, and more the way education is done. One thing that he didn't, UT President Randy Boyd didn't talk about this, but one of the things he has been emphasizing is that and one of the things that Don D. Plowman, the chancellor at UT Knoxville, has emphasized is that UT Knoxville is the land grant university for the state of Tennessee, and part of its mission is to do things that to improve the state's economy. And so these types of partnerships are becoming more and more common and more encouraged. In fact, there was a kind of an aside thing this past week. There was a Chancellor Plowman has a fund that they award. She awards $50,000 to professors who have research going on that is almost ready to go, be commercialized and go into the economy. And so they announced the $50,000 awards for several professors who are ready to have their research actually applied to the economy. One was someone's got a more realistic prosthetic thumb that he's created. So there are all kinds of there's all kinds of research that goes on at UT, and all kinds of research that is not just theoretical and exists in a journal, an academic journal somewhere. These are actual things that can be developed into products and services that people will use. And so that is one of the composites facility we're talking about is one of just many initiatives that goes on with the UT does either on its own or in partnership with others. So the last thing that we want to talk about before we move on to other things that we reported on last week, the Foundry, which was an industrial building that dates back to 1865 and is at the north end of what is now World's Fair Park. At the time, it was right by rail yards, and but the foundry was, as it sounds, an iron foundry. It fell into disrepair, was renovated for the World's Fair, where it was the Stroh House, which was a very popular German beer hall, German style beer hall that fairgoers remember fondly, and then it's been an event venue for the last 3 decades. It will soon be the new home for Knoxville Children's Theater, the large, obviously, theater and education nonprofit. They're located right now up on Churchwell Avenue in North Knoxville. They bought it, and they're going to convert it into a new theater. There will actually be 2 theaters inside the facility. They're raising money. They're raising $12 million. They've already started. $4 million of the dollars went to buying the property. $8 million will be going into renovations that they're going to be doing over the next couple of years. So the Children's Theater has a new home. They will actually start have their first production later this spring in the building. They'll be kind of scheduling things around construction projects for the next couple of years. But the troupe is it's all kids. These are by kids for kids productions. Right now, it's Mean Girls Junior is their current production. Now that's up at the old their current location in Churchwell, but this gives kids an opportunity to learn everything about the theater. They do everything. They do sets. They do production work. They do promotional work. They do all, and they sing and dance and act. And so it's as much an educational as an entertainment organization, and it is moving into a new home. Which kind of ensures that the Foundry, one of the few buildings that dates back to the Civil War in Knoxville, will continue to have a new life and move forward. So we'll see how the children's theater changes and evolves as it moves into its new digs. So now, since we have talked about things that we covered last week, now we're going to go on. We've got an interview with Katherine Bike, who is a school board member, and last week we had school board chair Betsy Henderson on to talk about school vouchers, which Henderson not only supports but went to Capitol Hill to tell the legislature she supported it. And of course, the legislature has passed school vouchers. Bike was an opponent of school vouchers, and so we thought that since we had talked to Henderson last week, that we would ask Bike to come on this week and talk about her opposition to vouchers and her thoughts on Henderson's going to the legislature and other things school related. So our interview is coming up next. Our guest this week on Compass Points is Katherine Bike, who is a member of the Knox County Board of Education, and we're going to be talking about vouchers. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Glad you're here. First of all, we'll go ahead and get right in this. What is and get started with the basics. What's your position on the Education Freedom Act, school vouchers, whatever side of the issue you're on is what you're going to call it. But what is your position on those in general, and why?
Yeah. So, and again, this is something I don't think would be a surprise to anyone, but I am against school vouchers or the education savings accounts and kind of how they've been put out.
Well, what is the why? What's the reasoning behind your opposition?
So I'll try to make this short, but I like data and I like information, and I also like logistics, and I like good sound systems and plans. And this is something that I came to me when my son was 2 or 3, because we were in early intervention, and I was looking at what does life look like for him, because I didn't know, and where do we want to go? And I'd still kind of at that point subscribe to this idea that potentially that private schools were better, and that and that's for another time, but found these coupons, this idea of coupons, and I thought, a coupon that could make it more affordable, because certainly I do not come from a wealthy family. Though I live in Sequoia Hills, my house is 1,000 square feet, so we are doing okay. We're not necessarily struggling, but we're also not at the top either. And so after looking into that and seeing like how this is distributed, like the things that, kind of like that you won't get and just all of that stuff. I mean, really, I could talk all day, but basically that's how I came to know about it. And then, at first being a person that was struggling, thought this was great, but then looking into it being like, wait a minute, actually not that great. And so that's just, and here we are today.
Yeah, really. Well, is your opposition more about what is or isn't offered at private schools, or is it more that it's some kind of it will undermine public schools?
I think it is. I want people to have the choice and to have freedoms. And I think sometimes it's like that nuance and verbiage that actually aggravates me a little bit, that I don't know that school vouchers actually provide more freedom and all of that stuff. And so, but I am realistically in the camp of that I am looking at our students that are struggling the most, because this is our next generation. And is this a plan that's going to help them? Because I do generally believe in the thought process of what's good for the gander. And, sometimes like there might be plenty of cases where a student performs better at a private school, but that is not what typically happens. That's not, in the overarching theme of things. So, yeah. And so I look at kind of, the why of things, and I want to know why people are for school vouchers. And, we see that test scores, it's not proven to improve test scores. It's not proven to improve outcomes. It's not proven to have more student supports. Realistically, if you're able to take advantage of a voucher, you probably have a good family support system that can already do a lot for you. And so when we're talking about helping students that have socioeconomic issues, that this is not going to help them, because they don't have that support system that's already in place, both in family and monetary means.
Well, okay. Well, you laid that out fairly well. We'll move on to one of the things that's happened during the debate up to the legislature's approval of the education savings accounts, or scholarships they like to call them now, and that is the school board chair Betsy Henderson went to Capitol Hill and testified in favor of vouchers, and it must be said that the school board declined to endorse vouchers just a week prior to that. What were your thoughts when you found out that Ms. Henderson was going to be addressing a committee in the legislature about her support for vouchers?
Well, I actually didn't find out until she was already there. So I did not have a heads up on that one. It was pretty surprising. I know her stance, and I know that she ran on that, and I understand that there are some people that are for it. But I was really surprised and kind of taken back, just because, we didn't know about that special session in a concrete way until, there was just not much notice. And so that's something I would have actually loved to do, would have been to testify, or to see testimony that is like from a family that truly wants this, and how it would, help their family and help their student. And, I did listen to it, and her stance doesn't seem to be that this is something that she wants for her children. So I was really confused, because if this is something that she is asking for herself as a parent, that she would be asking for it for her children. But, she has said that she went to public school, her husband went to public school, and that she loves that her kids are in public school and how they're doing. So that's really confusing, because I think that you probably want to hear testimony from someone that's actually asking for this or you're asking for the opinion of the chair of a board that's the third largest district in the state of Tennessee. And so that's where it's like, that's, a really gray area for me. And I think that's probably something that if I was advocating for something that appeared to be against the best interest of our school system, that I probably wouldn't touch it. I think a lot of people know the quote that with great power comes great responsibility. And I think that there's a huge responsibility when you're on the board, but also when you have a leadership position on a board, that everyone is looking at you. And of course, you're going to be scrutinized, and that you have to handle those things delicately. So I think because of all of that, I was really surprised that it kind of went that far, especially because we had the voucher conversation last year on our board. And even though we couldn't pass an anti-voucher resolution, we were very divided. And I think was that last February? It wasn't a part of our legislative priorities, but it was just a resolution. Yeah. So I was surprised, in short.
Well, we had Ms. Henderson on the show last week. She talked about a lot of the pushback that she got. There were, as you well know, a lot of people who came to school board meetings and heavily criticized her. It was on social media as well. There was one former school board member who showed up to criticize her. There were been calls for her to step down. A lot of anger about that. What do you think? Because she is in a leadership position. What do you think should or shouldn't happen moving forward?
I don't know. I wouldn't consider myself to be, the person that exactly should say exactly what should happen. I do think that it's unfortunate that she is kind of seems to be, I listened to the interview, and it seems to be keep tying back to some of the COVID issues and stuff like that. And I think that, and obviously I wasn't on the board then, so I don't have that personal experience, but I did watch and go to some of the board meetings during that time. And I don't think that this is tied to that. Maybe that's a shortcoming of me, but there are a lot of people that didn't like me during my campaign for whatever reason. And I'm still trying to help them. I'm still trying to do my job. I'm trying to be a professional. And I think that hopefully that she will look back at this and look back at some of these things and kind of can just move forward to do the best for Knox County schools and her role as a board chair. That's what would be my hope. But I'm not going to pretend that I know exactly what should be done. Obviously she was voted in. And I think that if people, there have been a lot of people who have asked me to bring something to ask her to step down. I actually don't think that that's within my capacity as a fellow board member. The only thing would be potentially like removing her position. And honestly, I don't think that's going to happen either. I think that the community needs to understand that they should be involved in elections. They should be civically engaged, and that's how we got to where we are now. And if the greater community doesn't like that, realistically, they should make sure that they're registered to vote. They should make sure that they're voting in local elections. They should understand what is going on. And yeah, it is hard to access those things, but I am always happy to help someone access those things. And I think there are plenty of other people that are also happy to help.
Looking forward, what do you see as the biggest issue or issues facing Knox County schools in the coming year?
Yeah, I honestly wouldn't consider the voucher thing behind us. I think that it's going to be really interesting when guidance comes out about how this is supposed to be implemented. And yeah, it might not be in the next year that could affect our funding, but it's certainly within the next 5 to 10 years that it will drastically affect our funding. And so I think that ties to kind of like in the next year, what are big problem areas? And I think, there are a lot of things that we have done that are positive raising salaries and other supports and other programs that we put in place. But like Rocky Hill Elementary that, recently had the fire, realistically, I think all of the schools in my district have portables. And some of those portables are old enough that if I had gone to that elementary school, I would have gone to class in those. And I'm almost 42. So that seems like a real problem that we really need to, both like the county, the city, everyone has got to really look at. What do our facilities look like, and what is the funding for that, and where is it going to come from? And that we don't have 10 and 15 years to take care of this stuff. Our kids are being doubled up on classrooms. That stresses teachers out. We already have a teacher shortage. And so I think that those are some of our big issues for the next year, especially when the cost for building has gone up. Like, I think there was a ballpark estimate that was like, more than $10 million to add on to a school. And it's like, all right, well, so I need $10 to $20 million for every one of my schools right now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot of money. It is an issue with the portable classrooms that were always supposed to be temporary. And, and we saw just in the recent, K through 8 school that the board approved, for the Lonsdale Mechanicsville, area, Beaumont area, it's going to cost upwards of $60 million. So that's, I mean, it's a lot, and that's a new school, obviously not just an addition, but yeah, like you said, additions cost 10 to 20 million. So, that's, and multiple schools need them. So, it is going to be a big challenge, especially, when, there's competition for that funding for roads and other infrastructure as well. So, well, that's about all the time we're going to have this week for this conversation. Board Member Bike, thank you very much for joining us and chatting with us about vouchers and schools and such. And hopefully we'll be able to ask you to come back soon and talk about these things more.
Of course, I would be happy to.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kat.
Thank you.
And we want to give a big thank you to Katherine Bike for coming on and talking with us about education. Hopefully we'll have her on again in the future. And
I'm going to apologize real quick. We had some technical issues on that one. I think we got all the information we wanted to get across, but there's going to be a few little pops and breaks in there from some phone connectivity issues, and I'll do my best. I did my best to get that cleaned up for you guys, and I hope it sounded okay.
And I'm sure. All right. Well, we covered things from last week, next week, or last week, this week. We have a couple of meetings that are real important that we'll be covering. Knox County Commission holds its monthly meeting at 5:00 on Monday. They because of the snow, city council and holiday last week, county commission did not get to hold any of its meetings that it was planning to hold. So there was no agenda review, which they normally do, and there were no zoning There was not a zoning meeting. It's all going to happen on Monday. 5:00, the regular meeting starts. The two big things on the agenda, two of the big things on the agenda, and we talked about both of these last week when we were previewing what we thought was going to be the agenda review meeting. The proposal to buy the Fort Loudon Waste and Recycling property in Oakwood Lincoln Park, which was the site of a massive fire 6 years ago now. The county's going to buy it for $4.35 million, pending commission approval, and they're wanting to build a comprehensive maintenance facility there, consolidate some of the other facilities they have. The other big issue on the agenda is a county property assessor, Phil Ballard, is proposing moving the county from a 4-year reappraisal cycle to a 2-year reappraisal cycle. So they would reappraise property twice as fast. It's real. it's funny how complicated appraising property actually is for tax purposes. And one of the things is this will not really affect in a material way residential and regular business real property taxes that much. It'll be as always whenever there's a reappraisal, it'll go your tax bill might go up a little bit, but in general it's it all depends on how your value increases in your house. This will primarily affect personal property, which are machinery and equipment that businesses use, and also the businesses that or entities that don't pay property taxes but do pay payments in lieu of taxes, like utilities and railroads. And it's a complex thing that we'll explain in stories, but the bottom line is those entities get discounts after 2 years on their personal property taxes. It can be a substantial amount. The change will enable the county and the city to increase the revenues they get from personal property by millions without having to raise the property tax rate. So we'll try to explain that better when we write about that this week. It's a very very complex formula that we'll try to simplify as best we can for you.
Let me ask a question real quick.
Yeah.
So if this does go through, when and if in a crazy world the county does raise property tax, the county will see those revenues sooner as well. If, say, in 2027 the county decides to raise property tax, in 2028 there'd be an appraisal. Well, that'd be a normal cycle anyway, but they would see those revenues sooner as well?
Well, no, it wouldn't really change. Well, it wouldn't change your real property,
right,
which is real estate.
Right.
No, if they raise that. Now, what it will do, what it can do, much like it did a couple of years ago when the city they raised their property taxes in the same year as a reappraisal, and the fundamental principle of reappraisal is that property values go up, and governments can't, and so the appraisal goes up. They have to adjust your tax rate
down to keep the real dollars the same, because
the overall the local governments can't make more money off of a reappraisal.
Right. So
the overall revenue has to be the same. So some taxes will go up, some will go down, but overall, so your mileage may vary, but in general, you can't, they can't do that. Except if they want to raise property taxes, then that is in addition to, it's a separate process to do that. They can't make more money off of the reappraisal, but they certainly can off raising the rate. So,
gotcha.
Your property tax rate could change twice in the same calendar year.
Right.
That's basically how that would work.
I get you. Okay.
And it's again,
it's a fun one.
They can't make anything simple about property taxes. Anyway, that's going to be on the agenda. I think it's probably going to pass because almost all, I believe, all the commissioners have signed on as co-sponsors. I hope that when they do discuss it, that somebody can explain it in a very simple manner, because it is very, very difficult. Anyway, following that, there will be the zonings meeting that they were going to hold last week. That's where County Commission gives final approval to various rezoning proposals. Every one that they're going to be considering this time was passed unanimously by Planning Commission. I don't see that there's going to be anything too controversial, but you never know with zoning matters. there's usually some opposition to at least one or two items. So then that's all going to happen on Monday. And the zoning meeting will happen it's scheduled for 5:30. It'll be later than that because the commission meeting starts at 5, and but it will be immediately following the county commission meeting. That's out. On Tuesday, 9 o'clock, the Sports Authority will be meeting at KCDC headquarters on Broadway. Looks like the agenda looks like a fairly typical one. The big thing is going to be the construction update because the stadium is just about finished, and it should be finished sometime in March, in plenty of time for opening day for the Knoxville Smokies, not the Tennessee Smokies anymore, the Knoxville Smokies on March 15th, and we'll be tracking all of those things and more. And so that's everything we've got for this week's episode. Want to thank Lord Seth Barber for his stellar work, especially fixing the technical problems we had with the interview with Katherine Bike. And I also want to thank Will Wright, who provided our music. And we will see you back here next week.
CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more. And many thanks to William Wright for composing our theme song. Compass Points is a partnership of Barking Shark Media and Barbarian Productions, and recorded by Lord Seth A. Barber at Barbarian Studios, Knoxville, Tennessee.